saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Good evening, everybody. Venerable says, friends, I am very happy to be here with you again to practice the Dhamma with you and to share the Dhamma with you. Today, for this Dhamma talk, our topic is mindfulness and clear comprehension. Once the Buddha said, Appamado amatapadang, pamado machuno padang, appamatta na miyanti, ye pamatta yatha mata. Appamado amatapadang. Appamada means mindfulness. Mindfulness is the way to deathless. Appamado amatapadang. Pamado machuno padang. Unmindfulness is the way to death. Appamatta na miyanti. Those who are mindful never die. Ye pamatta yatha mata. Those who are unmindful are just like dead ones. Friends, you know, in society, many people are unmindful. Since they are unmindful, they do many unwholesome, evil actions, evil activities, unwholesome activities. Since they are doing unwholesome deeds, as the result, they have to suffer here in this world. And they have to suffer hereafter also. And having reborn in bad destinations, unhappy destination, they have to suffer a lot because of unmindful life. But those who are mindful, they do good deeds, more and more good deeds. As they are doing more and more good deeds, they become happy here. They rejoice here in this world, rejoice after this world, and they rejoice more and more once they are born in happy destination. This is the nature. As an unbelievable but essential, indispensable fact, mindfulness is there in us from our birth. It is a built-in quality of all humans, mindfulness. It is because of mindfulness that we are aware of what is going on within us and around us. It is because of mindfulness that we can understand what is happening in the present moment. It is because of mindfulness that we can cognize or recognize whatever impinges on our mind through the senses. So, but we have to understand clearly that this mindfulness is not a developed mindfulness. This is a weak mindfulness, fake mindfulness, faint mindfulness. This mindfulness is to be developed. It is because of this weak mindfulness we have sort of distorted mindfulness. our perception is quite perverted. That is called perverted perception. Since we have perverted perceptions, we think, we see permanent in impermanent. We see permanent in impermanent. We see satisfactory in unsatisfactory. We see soul in soulless. That is because of our perverted perception. That is why we want to develop this mindfulness. When we developed this mindfulness, we have to develop mindfulness with wisdom and clear comprehension. This can be done only by humans. The Buddha realized this secret of humans. Even before his attainment of enlightenment, he realized this, and therefore he practiced, developed mindfulness to the human perfection. Thus he realized this Dhamma, he realized this teaching, this technique, and he presented this technique of meditation, as a technique. He presented this whole humans. That is the Buddha's unparalleled gift to humanity. That technique of meditation is what we call vipassana. You know, in the world today, the population is about 7 billion. In this world, we don't see a self-awakened one, the Samma Sambuddha. Though there are about 7 billion, no Samma Sambuddha. It is true, friends. The self-awakened ones are not born frequently. They are born after long time, eons and eons after. When the Buddha, Gautama, when he was born, he was mindful. He understood the insecurity of life. Therefore, he gave up everything. He renounced his worldly life and went forth as an ascetic. He wanted to seek what is good, what is skillful, what is happiness, the unworldly happiness. Whatever the worldly happiness is, whatever the happiness, worldly, if it is worldly happiness, it ends up with sadness, sorrowful. Whatever happiness ends up with sadness. Therefore, we have to find a way to find out the real happiness of life. You see, there are thousands of people today, there are thousands of people in hospitals and hospices. They die unmindfully. When they die unmindfully, what happens? After their death, they will be born in purgatories, in bad destination. We never want to be born in such places. That is why we want to understand mindfulness and clear comprehension, so that we can lead a happy, peaceful life here. So let's understand what mindfulness is. Mindful, when you say mindful, it doesn't mean that your mind is full. That is not the meaning. But mindful means that you are fully aware, you are fully alert, You are vigilant to understand what is going on right now here in this moment. That is what is called mindfulness. When you say mindfulness, there are some other terms like attention, alertness, awareness, earnestness, and vigilant. All these terms can be used interchangeably. The Pali term for mindfulness is sati. You know, Pali is the language of the Buddha. It is through which the Buddha communicated. So the Pali term for mindfulness is sati. There are two terms in Pali. There are two terms, sati and sati. We have to understand the difference. When writing, there is no difference. S-A-T-I, same. But when you pronounce it, there is a difference. And the meaning also different. Sati means mindfulness. And the other term is not sati but sati. Like Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati. You see, sati, that is not sati but sati. Sanghanusati. So sati means mindfulness, sati means remembering or recollecting. By remembering or recollecting, you cannot attain enlightenment. You cannot eradicate your defilements. You cannot see through. You have to develop mindfulness. That is to be developed in the present moment. You cannot develop mindfulness in the past or future. It is only in the present moment. But when you develop this mindfulness as a faculty of mindfulness, you can focus your attention to your past lives even to understand. That is what is called recollecting or remembering. This difference we have to understand. The Buddha practiced mindfulness from the very beginning of his life. Actually, according to a discourse named Acharya Abhuta Dhamma Sutta, the discourse on wonderful and marvelous things, the Buddha said he was mindful when he descended to his mother's womb from the heaven to Siddha. And then while he was in the mother's womb, he was mindful. When he was delivered, he was mindful. From that time he was mindful in whole life. So he was born mindfully, lived mindfully, and he passed away mindfully. At the age of about 5, he practiced mindfulness sitting under a rose apple tree. About 5 years. He practiced and attained certain jhana. That was at the age of 5, around 5. Then he gave up everything. He renounced this worldly life at the age of 29. Then he went from place to place seeking some teachers. Then he met some teachers. As you know, Alara Kalama, Uddaka Ramaputta, these were the teachers he met first. While he was practicing with them, he was mindful. He quite rationalized. He thought, Alara Kalama has faith. I also have faith. That is how he quite rationalized. Alara Kalama has energy. I also have energy. Alaraka has mindfulness. I also have mindfulness. Like this, he quite rationalized, he thought in such a way and practiced mindfulness with his teachers. And he practiced as an ascetic. He practiced 7 years severe austerities. During this time also, he developed his mindfulness. According to Satchaka, Maha Satchaka Sutta and Sihanada Sutta, he very clearly, the Buddha later on clearly mentioned that he maintained unremitting mindfulness at the risk of his life while he was practicing austerities. And on the full moon day of Vesak, May, in the month of May, under the Bodhi tree, he practiced mindfulness of breathing as the meditation. As the result, he attained enlightenment, full enlightenment. So that is because of mindfulness. That is how the Buddha practiced mindfulness. Do you know the prominent monk, the foremost monk who was in the Sasana, who was prominent in mindfulness? It was Venerable Ananda, Buddha's attendant monk. He was the foremost among all monks. He was the foremost of mindfulness. The Buddha said, among the monks, he was the prominent. He was the foremost monk who had mindfulness. This is how we have to understand mindfulness. Let's now understand how mindfulness is to be aroused and how it is to be cultivated and developed. If one needs to arouse something, one has to understand that it is there underneath, at the bottom, in a sort of subdued level. As I said earlier, this is a built-in factor, built-in quality of all humans. We all have this factor in our mind. It's a factor of mind. So we can arouse this and develop this mindfulness. In order to develop this mindfulness, we need to practice meditation. We need to sit somewhere and observe ourselves. We have to relax our body, calm our body, and we have to give attention to our breath and practice meditation for some time. When we practice in such a way, we can understand, we can develop different stages of meditation. These are called jhana. There are 4 jhanic experiences. There are 4 jhanas. The first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. Jhana means absorption, different levels of meditation, deep levels of meditation, concentration. When you practice, develop the first jhana, second jhana and third jhana. When you come to the third jhana, your mindfulness is quite developed. According to the explanation, it is said, Pītiyā ca viraga, upekkako ca viharate, sato ca sampajano ca. Having subdued rapture, you develop, the meditator can experience both mindfulness and clear comprehension. Sato cha sampajano cha. Sato means mindfulness, sampajana means clear comprehension. So when you come to the third jhana, there there are both mindfulness and clear comprehension. When you come to the fourth jhana, it is said, Sukhasya cha pahana, dukkasya cha pahana, having subdued both pleasure and pain, somanassa domanassanang attagama, adukkang asukang, upekka sati parisuddhin. Sati parisuddhin, this is the point where we want to understand. Sati means again mindfulness, parisuddhin means purified. So your mindfulness become a purified mindfulness. It is through this mindfulness that you can direct to understand your previous lives even. You can direct this mindfulness to perform miracles. That is what we call miraculous power. You can then understand others' mind because of this mindfulness, this purified mindfulness. This is how we to understand mindfulness. When you can develop your mindfulness. In order to develop further, we have to understand mindfulness, and then we have to apply mindfulness in our life, daily life. In the Karaniya Metta Sutta, the Metta Sutta, the Buddha said, mindfulness should go with metta. When we practice metta, love and friendliness, we extend love and friendliness to all beings in the world without any barriers. It is boundless metta, unlimited metta, love and friendliness. When metta is combined with mindfulness, it becomes more powerful, so powerful that one can enter the path and complete the journey and come to understand, realize the nature and attain enlightenment. It is because of sati, mindfulness. That is the development of mindfulness. And once a Venerable Ananda, the Buddha's attendant monk, he went to the Buddha and asked, Bhante, is there one thing when developed and cultivated fulfills 4 things, and 4 things when developed and cultivated fulfill 7 things, and 7 things when developed and cultivated fulfills 2 things and attain enlightenment? Is there such thing? Then the Buddha said, yes, there is one thing. If you develop one thing, then you can develop, it come to the completion of 4 things. And 4 things when developed complete 7 things. And when developed 7 things, fulfill 2 things and attain enlightenment. Liberation, come to liberation. So what is that, he asked. Venerable Ananda asked, what is that one thing, Bhante? Then the Buddha said, one thing is mindfulness of breathing. If you practice, develop mindfulness of breathing, it fulfills the 4 things. What are the 4 things? 4 establishments of mindfulness. When practice develop 4 establishments of mindfulness, then they fulfill 7 factors of enlightenment. When the 7 factors of enlightenment are developed and cultivated, they fulfill knowledge and liberation. That is how the Buddha said. This mindfulness, when developed, when cultivated, becomes a faculty. You know, there are 5 faculties. When we develop these 5 faculties, there are 5 faculties, as I said. The first one is confidence. Saddha. In Pali it is called Saddha, confidence. The second one is Virya. Virya means energy. Then the third is Sati. Sati means mindfulness as a faculty. Then Samadhi. Samadhi is concentration. Then Panya, wisdom. Those are the 5 faculties. When we practice, develop these 5 faculties, they themselves become 5 powers. When they become 5 powers, we can further develop so that they become 7 factors of enlightenment, which leads us towards the attainment of enlightenment. What are the 7 factors of enlightenment? The 7 factors of enlightenment are mindfulness, investigation of Dhamma, energy, rapture, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. Those are the 7 factors of enlightenment. And again, when you develop these 7 factors, you are leading towards the path, you are on the path, the Noble Eightfold Path. You know, on the Noble Eightfold Path, the 7th link, the 7th factor is right mindfulness. The Eightfold Path is right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness. 7th one is right mindfulness and right concentration. Those are the Eightfold Path. Eightfold of the path. So the 7th one is right mindfulness. This is because of the development of mindfulness. That is how we develop this mindfulness. We have to cultivate mindfulness and develop mindfulness. In the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the great discourse on establishment of mindfulness, the Buddha said, as the preamble of the discourse, Buddha said, monks, this is the only way for the purification of beings, for overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for reaching the path, for the attainment of enlightenment. What is that? The 4 establishments of mindfulness. So see, the 4 establishments of mindfulness, where you have to develop, you have to establish mindfulness on 4 components. What are the 4? The first one is mindfulness on body. Mindfulness on body as body. The second one, mindfulness on feeling. You have to establish mindfulness on feelings. Then the third one, mindful on mind. And the fourth one is mindfulness on mental object. These are the 4 ways to be practiced, developed, established. So to explain this, how to develop mindfulness, Buddha gave this particular discourse, which is a long discourse, where the Buddha explained how to practice mindfulness, like concentration and insight, both together, like in tandems. That is how one has to develop mindfulness. When we develop mindfulness, we can understand things properly, correctly. That is why we want to practice mindfulness. So, what is the purpose? What is the real purpose of practicing mindfulness? The real purpose of practicing mindfulness is living peacefully, happily here, light-heartedly in society. That is the purpose. When you develop, when you cultivated mindfulness, you can understand things as they are. What do you mean by as they are? You can understand that things are ever changing.